Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Green Factor, a show where we talk about green design and the business of sustainability. I'm Haris, the Green Carpenter, and today we'll be talking about building or curating your ethical brand. With me today, we have Najmia, the founder of Unplug, a retail shop based in Bangsa. So she works a lot with brands locally and also internationally. And I would like to, before we go into the deeper stuff, I would like to ask you, Najmia, Mia, on what is your journey and how does Unplug comes into the picture?
Okay, thanks for having me. I am. My journey started really. It sounds funny, but it started with Turkish towels. So I've always been in the creative industry, and I've always been a fan of culture, handicrafts. So I think that was my entry point to appreciating values that from handicrafts to sustainability. And so I started a brand in 2015, Realm, where we promoted Turkish towels. And why Turkish towels? When I first sourced and discovered Turkish towels, it was a handloom handicraft of this region in Turkey, the Aegean region, in which it's a GMO free cotton production region, producing one of the top organic cottons in the world. The, the product was beautiful. The end use of it was also following the lines of zero waste, in which it was multi purpose, versatile. It's more than just a towel. And we thought it was amazing. The story behind it, the fact that it's 100% natural fiber. And in sourcing, that's where I really got to know the production side of things, natural dyeing, the natural way of things. And so we started our first brand, Realm, in 2015. And back then in Malaysia, the idea of sustainability was very new. We would see it in, the food industry slowly, but in terms of lifestyle and products, it was very niche and new. And that's where we really struggled. We had a hard time building a voice and promoting these values. There was no commercial spaces for us to really promote our values. We didn't want to just sell design. And so after 3 years in running, we realized that, hey, we really need to create a platform to really highlight and be able to educate the market with a larger voice of a collective, a brand collective where we can really shout out what sustainability could look like for retailers, and really promoting the values behind that. And that's where in 2018, we got together some local brands, invited some international brands to really start up Unplug so that we can give a platform and a voice to like-minded brands.
Cool. So, disclaimer: our product Dapo is in Najmia's shop, and she is, like Bangsa is one of our best distributor, and so I just want to touch on you were going into fashion since fashion is one of the most considered to be one of the most unsustainable industry, and by going into there you see like there's a lot of problem of the chain and other issues that relate to sustainability. Why, like, how do you see it in the ethical sense? Because the next question is going to be like, what is ethical?
So in fashion and textile production, it really, I personally went to visit the producers and a few producers in Turkey because I wanted to see from my own eyes and get to know and build a relationship with producers before purchasing. And I think that is one crucial aspect because you see a lot of brands, they're not willing to invest to actually meet the producers and kind of have a look at the factory, and really grind them on information, right? How they produce the raw materials. Most people just prefer to purchase off a catalog for their supplies. I think that's already a huge step for small brands to really ask the right questions and understand how your products are being produced. And that's really where you'll find out whether it's something that you, a supply chain that you want to support, whether, for example, in fashion, um, whether you want to support synthetic materials, and how much, how detrimental is the process behind that, whether down to the dyeing process, so a lot of people, especially when it comes to cotton, um, they say natural cotton, natural linen, but what does it really mean? Some people even go to the extent of promoting organic cotton just because it's natural, but there's no transparency to prove is it really natural. So I think it's a lot of work in terms of getting to know your suppliers, whether they're just for raw materials or on the production level of things. And there are certifications that would be easy to work with in order to safely prove that you are promoting what you're promoting.
And
Even in Turkey, like when I went to Turkey, so many suppliers were like, "Oh, we're organic, we're organic." So then I would ask for any certification, and they didn't have. So that's already a red flag.
I love what when you talk about certification, because that is one of the things that we struggle at first when we started to do green products, where we use a lot of recycled wood or certified sources, but we are not certified. So a lot of people ask, yes, you say that, but what is the proof? So getting certification, which we get, I think 2018, helps us a lot in justification, justifying that, because anyone can claim, right? So like having a third party is good. So at least we have to know, we know that they are being audited or being measured to a certain standard. Um,
Yeah.
so just something that has been bothering me for quite some time. Um, when right now when we make our upholstery, we prefer to use fabric, but there are certain times where they want to have this leather kind of feel. So is it better to use leather per se, or what they say now is vegan leather, but actually vegan leather is just PU plastic? So how do you, because this is an ethical discussion, so how do you approach that?
Specific material usage is a battle. You choose your battle, right? Because one, do you want to use that finishing because it's more functional and will make the product more durable, or is it just for the sake of design and aesthetic? So for me, like for example, if I wanted to use leather in this, and maybe perhaps is it just purely for the look, or it helps to keep this whole design more durable? Then I would choose my battle. I might accept it if it's functional for the product, but if it's just purely for beauty, I would probably try to find a different alternative, depending on the impacts of how much you're using, something like leather in your design. So for us, we take that gentle approach because, as you said, working with certification and doing everything 100% correct right now, it's very costly. You need a lot of resources. And even us, like when we started sourcing in 2015 for organic cotton that has the GOTS certification, which is, an organic cotton certification, we had to purchase a whole roll of yarn because there was no demand for it. So our suppliers were like, if you want to use this, your volume has to be high and the minimum quantity is huge. And as a small brand, we can't do that. Whereas now in 2021, I think the demand is slowly getting there. So I feel like now is the right time to knock on these doors and support these supplies because there are more people and brands and businesses willing to purchase from certified, suppliers. So we have to be realistic as well to choose our battle and to choose the steps that you can actually do and not put too much pressure because it's costly.
Correct, correct. I think same as in term of sustainability or how we do our processes. We study all the processes involved in the operation and also the stakeholder like the makers, the government, and the community. And we try to make each process a little bit better. It can be greener, it can be more sustainable or more ethical. And it's actually a journey. You cannot do all in one go. And like for us, we've been doing it for 9 years. So every year we try to a little bit, add a little bit, a little bit, because it's not practical to just put everything there, right? But if you see it in a long term, there will be a time where you need to replace something. For example, you need to replace a certain machine. Then you just get a greener machine, a more efficient machine, or a thing that can be doing more things, for example. So it's about practicality, and because this is business, and that is why a lot of people that is afraid of the cost implication should see it in more of a longer stretch. And I think you've touched a little bit on some of the metric or the consideration. Let's talk more about that, because I know Unplug have like I think 8 metrics that you identify and use to in terms of working with your brands or promoting them. Can you share a little bit?
Yeah. So Unplug is a concept shop where we don't just we're not a marketplace where we take everything green. So how we curate based on the sustainable concept is we have 8 ecometric/value that we really want to promote. And these 8 values, all of the brands that are selected have to at least fulfill two. They're eco-friendly materials, eco-friendly procurement, eco-friendly packaging, social impact, fair trade, zero waste innovation, and preserving traditional skills, and lastly, local made. So, we have many brands that fulfill all. We have some brands that fulfill only two. But the reason we did this is that this is like a more of a comprehensive way of communicating to our customers by showing different brands championing different values to show them what better choices they can look at in terms of purchasing, better items, and supporting businesses that drive these values.
I think I would like to touch more on the eco-friendly procurement. Can you like explain a little bit, because other than that, it's a bit straightforward. But i-
Yeah.
procurement, why is it important, and how do you use it?
Yeah. So procurement is it's beyond just the raw supply, but it's the production. So there's this argument with bamboo. People say, "Oh, bamboo is natural material. It grows fast, so hence it's eco-friendly." But then when you look at the production, there's chemical treatment involved. Then you have to measure carbon footprint of this production, and even just general business operation, right? So it's heavy because it's more than just the procurement of your product that you're selling, but also generally business operations. So this is where you look at packaging. You look at how, if you're a manufacturer, each of the process, like measuring energy efficiency, water efficiency, and pollution reduction. So it's a broader it's a very broad area to look into that goes beyond just your product and your supply, raw supplies of those products. So one example that I have with one of the brands that we host, they are from Indonesia. They're called Topiku, and they sell sustainable hats. So I mean, just touching point on just the product that they do. So when you have a hat, you have the brim, the details of the straps and the buttons. Every little aspect of their hat is all sustainably procured. In a way, they collect waste. So their mission is to collect waste from Indonesia. So the cover is wasted organic cotton that they collect from hotels. So the drapes. So nothing is virgin material. The brim, what shapes the hat top, it's plastic that they recycle, and then they reproduce into a brim. The buttons, the metals, it's also recycled buttons. But just to show a picture of something as simple as a hat with different components, they look at each of those components. Whereas you see other brands, they might just promote, oh, the material is organic cotton, but the inner lining, everything else might not be, right? So this is just an example of how deep it can go in terms of um, verifying each part of your procurement generally as a business. Like I think a lot of people now are tackling packaging, especially during COVID. I personally saw how much I was wasting, and it's definitely tough because you also need to be practical that your eco packaging works. So it's a trial. You want to be as green as you can, but it also depends on solutions that you have out there.
Correct, correct. I think it's a same struggle for a lot of us. Like for example, when I look into all my process, we managed to do a lot on different things, but there are certain things that is like really difficult. For example, like the wrapping plastic, you want to protect the material, right? So
Yeah,
we've tried a few things as well, including using fabric, using like batik wrapping, so that when the user have it, they can reuse it, so it's not being waste. And also to protect the material, before this we use a lot of bubble wrap, but sometimes now we do have a replacement. We use our sawdust to be like act like polystyrene, but it doesn't work for all products. But these are some of the things that we need to have conversation. We need to have sharing session where, because the issues are being faced by everyone. So it's like if one person share and find, it helps a lot of other people to actually do something about it. And this is
yeah,
what the show is about as well, for us to get more local discussion, because a lot of the things that we hear are mostly from the western side. So having more local action being done, it's more relatable and we can do more. And
yeah.
talking about the brands, when we want to build our brands, what are the easiest for if the listeners want to know more on how we can actually start with something, what would you suggest to them?
uh, Meaning easiest step to taking a sustainable approach to their business. Yeah.
So there's two questions. One is they want to build a brand from zero. So what are the consideration? The other one is they have a brand but they want to move towards the more ethical branding.
Yeah, I think for the first question, if they have a brand and they want to build it sustainably or ethically, I think it's really to have a look at all of your non-sharing stakeholder, and really before you start. So let's say you already have a product or you're looking at a product to purchase in, understand how that's produced, and really do your research. And then I think that's the first step. But also second step is how can you minimize waste in the way your business is run. So like I think this is across various industry, branding and marketing, right? It requires a lot of hard copy material, paper. So there's a lot of paper plastic wastage for the purpose of brand experience. So, what are the creative ways that you can change this around to minimize that waste, or even promote the idea of recycle? So, if you have this beautiful packaging box that it comes with a product, maybe place a recycle bin in your store. So you incentivize your customers every time you return these packaging, and we rework it, then you get XXX discount off, and that's a way of you minimizing marketing branding waste. So like looking at each of your department and seeing where you can start, and I think one of the first step is definitely the product that you're selling.
Just to share the same sentiment, because I do a lot of consultation as well for businesses, because an area where I do most of my activism work is to get businesses to adopt sustainability. And when you think about sustainability, if you think about manufacturing, people always think for us to be producing green products, we need to have solar panels, we need to have expensive
Yeah.
machine and expensive material. So like they become like, oh, they shy away from it. But actually, I told them, or normally whoever wants to like start to look into sustainability, it doesn't even have to be about the product. The best way for businesses to start doing sustainability is to see which are the one that is the less cost impact and the most effective. So, for example, I would suggest one is like what you say, move towards paperless. So, like for us, we are moving, we are in transition where we do have some that is paperless. Even our stock keeping, normally we have stock card and all that. Now it's all online. So in a way, it helps in our paper waste, and at the same time, it save our costs. So we should
Yeah.
always look at the things that is cost saving first. If you are,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
the appetite for sustainability is very low, and then the second one is waste, like exactly what you say.
Yeah.
Look at your waste, how you can find ways to reduce in terms of reusing or even selling. Like for us, we used to have a lot around 30% wood waste, and but now because of our zero waste manufacturing initiative, it's down to 5%, and we are looking to next year to get to 0%. And how we do it is we use our waste and make products out of it. So instead of just becoming a waste, it becomes a new revenue stream. And just to share
Exactly.
with you, like the phone holder, this phone holder are made from actually the off cuts, and now these are our best seller. We have sold thousands of this. So
Yeah.
just by
Yeah.
looking at your waste, you can find opportunities there. And
Yeah.
in term of, for me, I'm seeing it as a uh, I save cost because the material has been paid for, and in that way I can transfer the saving to my customer. And this is also how we make sustainable product cheaper. Of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
there are certain things that is more premium because of the material and all that, but there are ways of you to make green products cheaper. So these two things, and I'm glad you also talk about the same thing. It's the easiest, and when you see the benefit of having that, then you will have the more appetite to, oh, what's next? Can I do?
Yeah.
What's next? What's next? So and I think it's more about the journey. And if you want to build a brand, it's about like how you need to look at long and also short term. So you cannot do all at one go, but it's like any other business. You, as you move, you get better and better.
Yeah. And can I just add something? Yeah.
Sure.
I think for especially for new brands, I think the old approach of business used to always it was always around maximizing profit for shareholder. So hence, you fall short on standards of other stakeholders that's part of your business, whether there's impacts on the environment or your workers and people that are involved, your workers, your suppliers. So now it's when you talk about ethical businesses, it's really about measuring and including all your stakeholders, and whether your policies and conditions and practice for them is fair. And I think this is usually, they're paying the cost for our profit sometime, and this has been the case, and we know that this is a huge problem.
I think like people understand the cause, meaning like they do believe in it, but it's not enough for a brand just to have a cause. And I got a lot of
Correct.
this comment from like other green business owner, and then they said that green products, people won't buy green product. Malaysia is not ready for green products, something like that. But myself, I personally think that people are not buying because you only have the cost. People are not just going to buy into the cost. There need to be other thing. Like for me, I use design. So design and sustainability at the same time. So people buy my product because it looks good. It's designed in a way that it solves their problems and issue, and it's also sustainable. So people forget that just by being, people think that just by having a cost, people will buy from you. But what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on that? Because there are brands that want to push for causes and all that, but they're not working. What went wrong?
Yeah, I think definitely like again how Unplug positions itself, we cannot dismiss design and quality because people don't want to just pay for a charity cause. For example, it's one time they do it just to help, but you want people to love the product first. They'll come back for it, of course, and that's a huge element. That's also why we curate our shop. We want to attract people who don't even care about sustainability, but the moment they step in and you educate them, they go back home thinking about these things, and it might change their future purchase, and it becomes an added benefit for them. And I think this is first step of changing and shifting people's mindset. But you have to give them first what they want, which is usually design, quality, and then I think the other aspect that's a bit difficult right now is pricing. But I think the ecosystem is slowly shifting. For example, we have more suppliers that are available for smaller purchases, more new eco-friendly materials out there to purchase from. But before, there was no demand for it. So pricing, the end price of your product is like just too high, and people are not willing to pay for that. So I think this is also another huge difficulty. It's like the entry point of your pricing needs to be fair, or comfortable for the market. And in Malaysia, it can be a bit difficult.
So it's about the balancing, right, between like cost and also the things you want to do. Yitmi said, "Love the eight value." Thank you very much, Yitmi, for tuning in. And yeah, I love the eight values. It makes things simpler. Sometimes
Yeah.
we overcomplicate things, and right now by having like, for example, you have an eight segment, so beginners or people who wants to explore can just look into all these things. Sometimes the 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 values might be easier for certain brand to achieve, but
Yeah.
sometimes yours might be in a different way. So it's
Hmm.
not about which priority is the most important. It's about you having the element in your thought process. A lot of
Yeah,
people think,
correct.
yeah, the because we always see capitalism or business as the enemy of social causes and environmental. So that's why we have this perception that when you do business, it's all about making money. It's like you don't think about anything else. So by having this what you call a perspective of having some consideration about other things, it
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
you a better brand. And like,
yeah.
what can okay? So now you want to go into the ethical branding and all that, and you already know how to do it. But how do you position yourself in a way that is different than your competitor, for example? Is it like still a face-to-face one, or how do you see of the brands that you have right now? How do they differentiate between other brands?
I think really again it's the mixture of their end product, their design, and what the cause that they're pushing. So far, I think also because it's a new market space, meaning there's not enough conscious brands out there. Everyone's still slightly different. The competition is not that high yet, but skincare competition is high. So I would say once once things season up and there are many people and brands taking this route, how you can differentiate yourself or have an edge is again going back to working with some form of transparency to prove that your values are really true, so working with certificates would be good, or having just more transparency in your communications. I'll give you one example. One local brand, Mooney, he focuses on tropical plant dye base apparel, really beautiful, and he's really diving into that craft. He does this really fun thing where in his receipt he has a trust label, so you can see the origin of the plant, where it was made, what they are. details like this is very educational for customers. Even though you don't have a certificate, at least you're giving them more information. Or things like price transparency. There's a few brands that do that, Earth Air being one of them. You can see the price transparency of how much percentage goes into the artisans, how much into production, logistics, and retail. So for customers, and it's how you communicate it. So for customers, I mean, that gives you an edge because it shows that you're really able to communicate and be transparent and be build that relationship with the customers. So I think, yeah, this
Mm.
is one of the biggest things to work on.
So we have a long question from Podi. Thank you for the idea. A couple of thoughts. How to resolve scale issue when you are small business, sourcing and all, including when there is no local product for some input you need. Can it be sustainable if pieces that you produce are imported? And also, how do we and customer define sustainability, ethical, eco-friendly, and green and all? So you choose what question you want
Wow.
to answer. um,
Um,
so,
I would have to say, yeah, scaling up is a huge question mark. I would have to say, this goes along the lines of the value local made as well. When you're small, your production and your output is it's small batch. I think the problem comes in when you look at volume. Also, how do you push volume at such and when the market is very new? So I think starting small is a good step before you start thinking about scaling up, because we also have to wait for the market to be ready. And also when your company size, your production size is small, you're also saving more on carbon footprint, and your output. So we think about that as well. So most of the brands, I would say all of my brands in here, 50 plus, they're all small companies, small batch production, limited editions concept. And I think this is the new way of doing things, also because you see wastage when you can't move and sell all of your products and stocks. Where does it go? You can't just put it all on discount. There's still waste there. So I think moving towards scaling down is a good move.
I think
So
maybe
that's
I
that's
just
one.
touch a little bit on the scaling up part because this is what more or less what we are doing right now. So one of the things that we find hard is on the supply chain, right? There's a lot of problem. A lot of people have the same problem. So what we did was first we identify the material that we want to work with. So initially I started with recycled wood, but eventually because there is increase in demand and opportunity, we use three type of sustainable wood. So one is recycle, where you use pellets, crate, wooden houses, and all that. Basically, second-hand wood. The second one is plantation, where you have we use wood that is instead of taking from forest, we take from plantation, like rubber wood, and for us we use acacia as well from Sarawak, from wood plantation. And the third one is certified. So we use PFC certified. It's a Europe certification that says that our wood comes from sustainable sources, including sustainable forests. So by having your material in a way you have options, so it helps in your decision making. And we have worked with bamboo before, and we found out like it's not really scalable, it's not practical, and all that. So it's about finding the right kind of material if you are talking about scaling up. That's why right now the products that we do, we have thought about the scaling up first, whether the supply is enough, whether it's how it's going to affect a lot of different things. So it's about like seeing the longer way. And the second one is more on the bulk buying side. That is why right now one of the things that I'm focusing or pushing for more is like more players in the industry. It sounds counterintuitive, like why we want to have more competitors, but actually, by having more competitors, like for example, right now, coating for furniture it's a bit expensive for water based compared to the oil based, but because it's not produced at a scale. So if let's say a lot of manufacturer wants this water based, they will have to make a big batch, and the cost per unit will go down. So that's why we need to have this economies of scale kind of understanding where we cannot do alone, and
Yeah.
we need to have more people to help do that. and that is why I think these some of the things that you can approach in terms of scaling up. Let's touch the next question. No local provider. Okay, so some pieces are important. Mia, what is your thoughts on that?
Including where the okay, yeah. This is a reality. Pre-COVID, we import a lot of the raw materials. Again, because for us as well, there was not enough local brands that were going the sustainable route, which is why we opened the doors for international brands to also come in to create a bigger collective and a stronger voice. Um, so I think this is hard to run away from, but it's become a reality now since COVID because importing and exporting is a bit more difficult and tighter now. I hope that there are more innovation and creativity coming out from local producers because I think we really need it. Like even for us, the brand realm, we're trying to find something we can source here in Malaysia. And again, I think I agree with Harith where you need more players so that we can bring the cost down together.
Yeah, for me, I think it's about your decision. You have to make decision. So if you feel that it is like for the better good, uh, in your judgment, because a lot of things, these things are subjective. So it's all about what you believe in, and if you see that it is in a way better, because there are some argument like rather than it's better to buy non-sustainable parts rather than sustainable but you have to ship it, right? But it all depends on what you believe and what you feel like portraying, or you
Yeah.
have to make a
I mean,
decision.
yeah. So, for example, we had this comment before when we host. I think 30% of our brands, or 20% now, is international brands. Greece, Thailand, Indonesia, U.S., Canada. People were like, "Oh, I mean, is that sustainable? Like why are you promoting, outside brands?" But to me, I'm like, I'm still promoting a local business there and a conscious
Mm,
initiative, and they wouldn't be here or come all the way spend money shipping to Malaysia if they didn't feel like this was a platform that was viable for them. So that was for me, and my goal was I want to support these brands,
mm,
even all the way in Malaysia.
mm. So that's why I feel like it's the question for the founder to answer themselves. And the last part of it, because we have another question, but the last part, how do you define sustainability? Like for me, and all this thing, like for me, like technicality, there might be some different, but personally, I feel like if it's going to the right way in a way that is agreed by a lot of people, that should be the way to go. But I don't know, Mia, when you say ethical, eco-friendly, sustainable, green, and all that, how do you see that terminology?
Yeah, it's very technical and they all have different sort of like implications and meaning. Like eco-friendly isn't equal to sustainability, but I feel like sustainability kind of like, in my opinion, encompasses all of that because it's really about finding a way to verify and measure your social and environmental performance in your business. So it includes ethical, eco-friendly, green.
Correct, correct. And I think like a lot of people forget that sustainability is not about just saving the environment. People think that it's about saving the environment. It's actually a small part of it. It's the benefit of sustainability, but it also encompasses like mental health, physical health, because sustainability means like good in the long run. It doesn't say like
Right. Yeah.
the forest is safe or anything, right? So everything that is good in the long run is part of sustainability.
Yeah.
And that's why sustainability is not a trend. It's something that is real. Like efficiency is sustainability. You use less input to get the same output. So these are some of the things that people forget and see it as a different thing, but actually it's a lot of different things.
It's not.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
I think terminology aside, it's something that you can read on. But for me, it's whatever in that direction is good. Thank you for the question, Podi. We have another question from Perthpal. Thank you for tuning in, Perthpal. Love the discussion. I feel pioneers will have to shoulder a lot of responsibility when starting a movement that might force early starter to delay returns. Price will be exciting upon reaching critical mass for the tipping point to take place. What's your take, Mia?
Yeah, I mean, after COVID, I feel the value behind responsible buying and responsible way of running a business, it's more acceptable. But I don't know if I can generalize and say that we're gonna hit a point where this is what the mass would want. Because also, we got to think about sustainability. Like, scaling up also means the cost is lacking somewhere else, right? So it's shifting the whole way that we operate, and it's I'm not sure if everybody would want to go that route to
But we
make
are
it a
seeing
mass. Yeah,
correct. But we are seeing a lot of not pressure, but like incentive by the government towards sustainability, and the awareness is there. People know there is a demand for it. So I think this right now is like either the tipping point, because
yeah,
like there's now everyone else is talking about it. I think like last time when I started like 9 years ago, I
yeah,
was like, what is green furniture? I also don't know. I
yeah,
just know that I want to make it in a more sustainable way, right? And there's a lot of challenge because like no one's doing it, so we have to like do try and error. And that is why I feel like now we, with the knowledge that I have, I share it, because that if someone wants to go through that journey, instead of taking 9 years, they can just do it in 1 or 2 years. So you shortcut, and then you just leverage. So that's why it's important to have all these discussions, so we leverage each other, because we
yeah,
don't live in a world of competition anymore. It's
yeah,
always
yeah,
about how we can work together to achieve something. And
yeah.
for me, it's what when we share, I share a lot of the things that I do. um, it's for me like the more you share, actually, if they want to follow my business model or what I do, they will attract different kind of customer. And the market is so big. If you talk about Malaysia, maybe 30 million, but if you talk about worldwide, it's like you can't eat it alone. So let's do this together. And at the same time, of course, the pioneers will have to bear the most burden because they have to do everything themselves. But it comes with the cost as well. Now you don't have to be an activist to do green things. You
Yeah,
already have those knowledge, and the knowledge
yeah,
building. Now we have the knowledge to actually make money and make the
yeah,
world a better place, which is unheard of.
yeah,
Last time we only think like when you do business, it's about taking for the environment, is all the bad things. Now, by having some knowledge,
yeah,
we can actually
yeah.
do good and make money. So it's a no-brainer, right?
I mean, I don't know if, yeah, do you have this kind of experience? Like, now when I speak to potential investors, or just people who are willing to invest in your company in one form or another, when you tell them what your purpose and mission is, that is the edge that gets them excited. It's not just about profits, but it's like what we're doing to tackle sustainable, I mean, environmental and social performance. So I feel like it's now become a reality for many people because it is a real problem, and now people mass know about it, right? And also, it's interesting to see younger brands um, incorporate this. Like, we used to have to knock and really search for brands and knock on their door, but now new brands, and I'm looking at the owners, they're such a young vibrant team. They're taking this route, so I feel like, you know what, like, there's a change and there's a shift. Oh, sorry, you're on mute.
Okay. I kind of agree, because last time you only see like the big company or big brands doing this, as because they have money and it's part of what they want to do and all that. But now we are seeing all these companies, even small companies, are doing it. So it's quite amazing how it has shift. And then now we are like putting more on the big corporation as well, more pressure to them. It's not enough what they're doing, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I, 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 I think it's a good discussion, Mia. Today we have some good
yeah.
questions as well. So thank you very much, Guy, for like asking question and tuning in. And if you find value in what we're sharing, do share with your friends or family that might benefit from this. And do with Mia, thank you very much for being part of the discussion today. If you guys want to connect with Mia or look at her the products or buy from her and support all these local brands, do go to www.shopunplug.com or their IG Shop Unplug. They are also in Bangsa Village too. Do find them in where? Level 1?
Level 1, yeah.
Level 1. So and for everyone else, thank you for tuning in. Do be part of the solution and the conversation. And next week we also gonna have who we gonna have next week? Also we have the Hive next week. So we have Claire. So we'll also be having a good conversation with her, I hope. And for everyone else, thank you very much for tuning in and have a green week ahead. Bye bye.